tomb of Tutankhamun. In 1922, British archaeologist Howard Carter uncovered the tomb of Tutankhamun in Egypt's Valley of the Kings. It was one of the greatest archaeological finds in history, but almost immediately, stories of a deadly curse took hold. Just months after the discovery, Lord Carnarvon, the expedition's financial backer, died suddenly from an infected mosquito bite. Newspapers around the world ran headlines proclaiming a mummy's curse, claiming that anyone disturbing the pharaoh would suffer a fatal punishment. The pattern seemed convincing, as other figures connected to the excavation also died in the years that followed. However, closer inspection reveals a different story. Most deaths were explainable by common causes, and Carter himself, the man most exposed to the tomb, lived nearly 2 decades longer. The so-called curse was more a reflection of colonial fascination with Egypt and the media's appetite for sensationalism. It entrenched the idea that ancient relics carried terrifying power. Tutankhamun wasn't alone. Another cursed treasure haunted European high society: the Hope Diamond. The Hope Diamond is one of the most famous gemstones ever discovered, weighing over 45 carats and radiating a deep blue brilliance. But alongside its beauty came a reputation for misfortune. Stories originating in the 18th century claimed the diamond had been stolen from a Hindu temple idol, placing a spiritual curse on it. From there, tales grew that French royalty who owned the gem, most notably Marie Antoinette, met grisly fates directly because of its power. When later owners across Europe and America suffered business collapse, illness, or ruinous relationships, newspapers tied every tragedy back to the stone. Wealthy collectors were said to acquire not just a jewel, but a death sentence. In truth, much of this narrative was exaggerated by jewel merchants and the media. By heightening the diamond's aura of danger, they made it more desirable, increasing its eventual sale price. The curse became part marketing myth, part Gothic legend. Today, the Hope Diamond rests safely in the Smithsonian Institution, admired by millions of visitors with no misfortune attached. Yet the legend remains more famous than any scientific explanation of the stone. From glittering gems to vanishing rooms, curses traveled wherever belief was strong, and one of the most mysterious cases emerged in wartime Europe: the cursed Amber Room. The Amber Room was one of Russia's greatest treasures, a vast chamber lined with golden amber panels, mirrors, and gemstones. Originally built in Prussia and later gifted to Peter the Great, it stood inside the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg. By the 20th century, it was already considered the 8th wonder of the world. When Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union during World War II, they looted the Amber Room and transported it to Königsberg in present-day Kaliningrad. That's where the curse stories begin. Several Nazi officers involved in dismantling and shipping the chamber died under strange or violent circumstances during the war. Others who searched for the chamber years later also met fates that fueled belief in a supernatural shadow over the Amber Room. When the room disappeared at the end of the war, vanishing without any confirmed trace, speculation exploded that a curse had protected it by destroying everyone who attempted to claim it. Real historians point to more practical explanations. Bombing raids, secret transport, or post-war theft may explain the room's disappearance, but its absence left a perfect void for legend. Treasure hunters repeatedly launched expeditions, convinced not only of the room's existence, but also of its paranormal lethality. Each failure deepened the myth. Even whispered stories that misfortune would strike anyone digging too close to its resting place added to its aura. The Amber Room sits at the intersection of reality and myth, an extravagant chamber stolen in wartime, now lost to history. No single discovery or burial chamber could equal its mystique. Vanished rooms weren't the only artifacts said to destroy those who took them. Ötzi, the Iceman. In 1991, high in the Ötztal Alps between Austria and Italy, hikers discovered what they first mistook for a recently dead mountaineer. Archaeologists quickly realized it was far older, over 5,000 years old. The man became known as Ötzi, the Iceman, one of the best preserved natural mummies in the world. His discovery offered scientists an unmatched window into Copper Age life. Yet the attention soon spiraled into darker territory. Within a decade, at least 7 individuals closely connected with the Iceman's discovery or research died under what seemed unusual circumstances. A forensic pathologist succumbed to a rare blood condition. A mountain guide leading the discovery team was killed in an avalanche. A filmmaker documenting Ötzi's story died of a brain tumor. Media outlets began referring to the Ötzi curse, hinting that disturbing this ancient body invited destruction. But statistical context changes the picture. Thousands of specialists and researchers interacted with Ötzi over decades, and most lived ordinary lives. The handful of deaths fell within what might be expected by chance alone. Still, the narrative was irresistible. It echoed older mummies' curse legends and fed modern fascination with supernatural justice. The Iceman turned from a scientific breakthrough into a chilling omen packaged for headlines. What's striking is how the curse legend gained momentum despite scientific rebuttals. Fear carried more weight than fact. In the end, Ötzi's story shows how modern archaeology can spark not only discovery, but also superstition dressed up as news. But not all cursed objects were ancient. Some emerged from ordinary households and made their way into 21st century folklore. The Dybbuk box. A small wooden wine cabinet appeared on eBay in 2003. The seller's account of it was unusual. He claimed the cabinet had once belonged to a Holocaust survivor and contained a malicious spirit from Jewish folklore known as a Dybbuk. According to the listing, every new owner reported nightmares, sudden illness, disturbing shadows, and relentless bad luck. The online post spread widely, transforming this unremarkable cabinet into a phenomenon. When subsequent buyers echoed similar experiences, failed businesses, accidents, unexplained odors of ammonia, the reputation of the Dybbuk box solidified. Blogs covered it. Paranormal investigators dissected the claims. Eventually, it reached Hollywood, inspiring the 2012 horror film The Possession, and cementing its place in 21st century occult lore. The striking part is how an online marketplace became the origin for a new curse legend. Unlike Tutankhamun's tomb or the Amber Room, this wasn't steeped in centuries of folklore. It began with one viral listing and the amplification of online rumor. Skeptics later suggested the Dybbuk box was a clever hoax or a marketing stunt, but by then the story had already transcended fact. Cultural reach mattered more than whether something was literally real. This case illustrates how easily cursed artifact narratives adapt to modern technology. Internet circulation replaced the old press. User reviews and personal anecdotes substituted for village tales and printed exaggerations. And once mainstream media picked it up, the item achieved permanence. What remains isn't necessarily a cabinet haunted by spirits, but a demonstration of how folklore evolves. Digital platforms can generate myths just as powerful as any buried tomb. Some cursed artifacts shaped culture for centuries. Others needed only a broadband connection. The haunting of the Busby Stoop chair. In the quiet of a North Yorkshire pub sat an old oak chair whose reputation frightened, even hardened, skeptics. Known as the Busby Stoop chair, legend ties it to an 18th century murderer named Thomas Busby. In 1702, sentenced to hang for killing his father-in-law, Busby supposedly cursed his favorite chair on the way to the gallows, declaring death to anyone who dared sit in it afterward. The tale of a man's dying words became the anchor for one of Britain's strangest curse stories. The records are murky, but the chair's notoriety grew steadily across 3 centuries. Patrons at the pub told of delivery drivers who took a seat and later died in road accidents. Airmen in the Second World War reportedly tempted fate by sitting in the chair and then never returned from bombing runs. Stories accumulated of sudden illness, bizarre workplace accidents, or fatal crashes, all connected back to a moment of contact with the wooden seat. Each death made the pattern harder to dismiss, pushing the chair's reputation from mere folklore to a feared local hazard. By the 20th century, the curse felt so real to the community that the landlord of the inn finally hung the chair high on a wall to prevent anyone using it. Today, the Busby Stoop chair resides in a museum, displayed safely out of reach. Few still claim that an oak chair can kill, but its story illustrates how suggestion and fear alone can be lethal. The chair is a static object. It has no inherent properties capable of harming, yet belief gave it agency. Once the story linked death to sitting in the chair, every coincidence was collected as proof. Psychological expectation plays a role here. When a public convinced of a curse connects normal accidents to a single object, the artifact gains imagined power. The Busby Stoop chair shows how superstition can create a real shadow from nothing more than a legend told in a pub. The Koh-i-Noor is a dazzling stone with a blood-soaked reputation. Weighing over 100 carats, today it rests among the British crown jewels, but its origins lie deep in India's medieval courts. An old inscription warned that only God or women could safely possess it. Any man who wore it would know misfortune, conflict, or death. That legend echoed through empires as the diamond passed from hand to hand. The Mughal emperors held it at the height of their power, but their empire fractured amid corruption and conquest. An Afghan ruler claimed it, and his reign collapsed into rebellion. A Persian Shah seized it, only for his dynasty to fall in bloodshed. The diamond then cut into the fate of the Sikh Empire. Maharaja Ranjit Singh's kingdom prospered under his rule, yet after his death, the stone became a bargaining chip in the empire's ruin. British forces annexed Punjab in the mid-19th century, claiming the gem as spoils. From that point, the Koh-i-Noor came to symbolize colonial dominance. Placed within the crown jewels, it became not only a trophy, but also a political wound, a reminder of conquest remembered bitterly across South Asia. While legends blamed its curse for the fall of rulers, history shows the diamond was less a cause than a witness to violence. It traveled through unstable times. Each transfer reflected a new defeat. The curse narrative persists because the pattern is undeniable. Nearly every male ruler who held it came to ruin. In contrast, once incorporated into the British collection, it was never worn by a king, only mounted for queens. That detail appears almost as if the inscription's warning had been obeyed. Rationally, the Koh-i-Noor cannot bend history, yet its passage mirrors empire building's brutality. The curse reflects greed, war, and ambition, rather than supernatural punishment. It stands as a jewel that no man could wear without fear. Cursed artifacts show how fear, myth, and coincidence can leave a darker mark on history than truth itself. Found this useful? Like the video, subscribe for more hard-hitting historical explainers, and hit the bell so you never miss the next dive into history's hidden shadows.